And my name is Dr. Jerry Gillespie. I'm with the EDU engagement team here at Microsoft. And really, what part of my team and what we do is we support EDU customers globally around the world. In fact, I started at 5:30 this morning where I am, helping and supporting educators use the tools that we have and providing demonstration and training sessions and webinars such as this. We're going to try and make this as interactive as we can. This session is being recorded. I always let people know that. So if you do have your video on, I always put that precursor out that you are part of the show. Welcome. So if you want to, it's okay to turn your video off if you don't want to be forever of course, in AESA's video library, but you are welcome to stay on and to be part of that too. At the chat session, you should be able to hopefully see the chat area and can add in some questions in that. If you don't see that chat area, that's okay. You can raise your hand in that function, or at that time we can come off mute and ask questions. I really want you to be able to feel free to come in and ask questions at any time if you have to. I have Renan here from Microsoft, who is also going to be here and helping me adjust the chat that's here too, and see. I would love to hear, and just the fact to see that if you do have access to chat and go there, could you just type in, I'm just curious about the roles that we have here with people. We're going to do an introduction to OneNote. I'm going to start sharing my screen. And as I start sharing my screen, if you could just type in like what your role is, if you're an educator, if you're support staff, instructional support, admin executive, any of that, just to help me kind of help along with those conversations. If you're a school leader, if you are in a service center, support leader, all of that too. That helps me. All right, awesome. And like I said, I'm going to share my screen here. All right. You should be seeing here my screen. We're going to make sure we set the stage here. And just saying that right here, I just kind of do this visual. I'm talking right now. That's why I start out with talking, so hopefully people can figure out how to get all of this here that's on this information. Of course, those three ellipses, 3 dots in Microsoft is always where you're going to get your menu and your options. That's where you're going to see your device settings and making sure you're seeing that appropriately there if you need to. So I appreciate that. That helps me a lot of different supports, administrator roles, those types of roles. That really helps me. Like I said today, an hour, we're going to cover the introduction, basic navigation of OneNote. I'm going to give this presentation, this PowerPoint I have is going to go to AESA. They're going to be able to provide a link to it. You are going to get all of these resources I'm going to give you in this information, just so that's my precursor. Anytime I do these kind of webinars, I want to leave you with resources and information so that you can take a deeper dive. I'd be glad to come back and dive into other types of notebooks and resources because there is a really huge, vast world of OneNote. It's an amazing tool. It's one of my favorite tools, especially adding it with Teams. It is a very powerful, engaging work together type of tools to impact any position and role that you have in education. I know your time is valuable, so please try and follow along if you want to. This is being recorded, so if you want to follow along later and watch this session and follow along with me at that time, totally fine. If you can and have the opportunity, be able to open up OneNote too and ask questions as we go through. If I do not have the answers, I will find them for you and we will make sure that we get them out to you and be part of that follow-up in this presentation. Please keep your mic muted. It seems like the sentence here meant to say, it should say, feel free to ask questions though, even though we have our mic muted. That's just easier for me, for people to be able to hear what it is that I'm going to be talking about and discussing, and then enjoy the journey. There are I know I'm going to show you information here, even no matter how many sessions we do in this too, there's always an opportunity to learn more. So please feel free to reach out, especially to your support system that you have at AESA. They know how to get a hold of me. There are different ways. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have information about the Enable Remote Learning community in this information. That community is supported by our team at the EDU engagement team, along with product engineers that are inside to be able to answer questions there too. So I'm going to actually start in with the world of OneNote. And I'm going to pop this out just so that I can give you a more larger view of that here. So why I start here with the world of OneNote and understanding is there are different iterations and different ways to use OneNote and really understanding this. So I come from the world of education. My background, my education is actually in curriculum instruction. I was at an instructional leadership role before I came to Microsoft for all of our large district in the Pacific Northwest. I was a school principal, an elementary school principal. That is honestly where I found OneNote, and essentially because of what OneNote is, it is that digital binder, digital notebook. It is the same type of notebooks that, of course, of myself, when I started out and was actually as an administrator, those notebooks that I had and used were always started out on my notebook shelf as something that, were beautiful in the beginning of the school year. I would spend time, I'd had a notebook for my budgets. I had a notebook for my staff planning, of course, all of my procedures and policies for my staff. I had assessment information. If I went out to my secretary's office, my admin assistant, they had notebooks. Even my nurse, we had these beautiful notebooks that we'd set up and organize. And somewhere by the time we would, of course, be reorganizing those notebooks by the first quarter of the school year, because of getting busy and having to put that information in, right? So this is what what OneNote is. It is a digital online notebook system. So when you have that notebook, and I'm showing you the actually two different versions. This up here in the corner here is our OneNote Windows 10 app. That is the app that you get from the Windows Store, and that is the application that comes. This right here, down here on the left-hand corner, is what it looks like for it to be in the OneNote 2016, which is the desktop application. So when we mean that by desktop application, that is those programs like our Word, Excel, PowerPoint, what we used to with Microsoft, when we used to go and buy, of course, that little box of software and that coming in. That is the OneNote 2016 desktop edition. This is what it looks like in the Windows 10 app or even online. And I want to talk about these differences because you can use OneNote, of course, on your iPad. There's an app that comes. You can use that, which is that mobile version. You have the online version. You have the Windows 10 version, which is the application. You have the OneNote 2016 version, which is the desktop application that it can sync and with that cloud connection. And then you also have the class notebook, the staff notebook. OneNote is just such a valuable resource that it's used in multiple ways, and it's structured differently to how you want to use it in your work stream. So just some things to point out here. The Windows 10 app and online, what you're first going to see is what we call the bookshelf. And I'm going to go into a live demo so in just a minute, but I want to point these out just while I have these graphics here. This here, first here, this is your bookshelf of information that you have. And I can see here, these are my notebooks here that I can get to. In here, the next line, I'm going to see are those sections. So just like those section dividers in that notebook that we had when we had our big view binders or any of those kind of binders that we used to use on our shelf, you have those sections. And then behind the sections, if we do have a section, we have pages, right? So how we would divide, we have our section and we have pages. That is what looks different in the desktop application. The same concept, same idea, just have to get used to what the format looks like. This side right here where we see Sarah's notebook here on this area right here, this is going to be your bookshelf, and I'm going to show you what my bookshelf looks like when I jump into the application in the demo in just a second. These across the top are my sections. Those are those dividers again. Those are those dividers that we buy, and we those colors and type, that are going to keep all of our information separated in those dividers. And then as I come over to the far right-hand side, those are going to be my pages in this notebook. So depending on where you are in the functionalities, a lot of them are same. I couldn't say that honestly 2 years ago. There was a reason why I always usually use the OneNote desktop application 2016 because there was more functionality in that version. I can't say that any longer because the Windows 10 app now has caught up with a lot of the same features that I use and enjoy out of the desktop application. I'm going to point some of those out. And they've also added some some new features that are available in the app that are not available in the desktop application. So you really have to look at your work stream and what it is that you want to be able to pull apart. I'm going to show you how to decipher again. I put a resource in here. I'm just going to kind of go through this PowerPoint and then we'll start the live demo, but I want to show you what you're going to be getting when you get this PowerPoint of information. I've added here a link that's going to take you exactly to these quick start, because even though we go through this and you have this training video, I wanted to leave you with some resources to make sure that you can dive in and be able to use this even to more of the capabilities, or review maybe some things that we cover, so you have that resource. But I also have left here basic tasks talking about that OneNote 2016. There's a complete learning OneNote help and learning resource. And then these are amazing, and you've got links to these. These are free ebooks from Microsoft that talk about how to use these for team collaboration with ideas. Tips and tricks for using it during team collaboration, using it for meetings. There's some tips and tricks. These resources you're going to be able to get. They look exactly like this. They're going to be your PDFs. They're going to be for you to take, download, and you have those to share. So it's a great resource. I'm going to be sending this your way. So just some real, true kind of ways of OneNote in application, because that's important. We want to make sure that it's relevant to your work stream. Technology should be something that fits right into your work streams. And then again, because Mike Tholfsen, if you've seen any of videos or support documentation, Mike Tholfsen is one of our PMs, our program managers. He's specially supported OneNote, accessibility tools, and really bringing out how to support that professional development with his quick tips. These are some great links to best practices with OneNote, his different matrix of how OneNote is different in those different areas and what you get in the different iterations with OneNote. And then, of course, links to his quick tip videos that are there too. And then just resources here about Microsoft tools. So I'm going to actually come out of here and we're going to dive into more into doing the demo and looking at OneNote. And for me to start that, I'm going to actually start and have here, and if you're going to follow along with me, and I hope you do, we're going to start, and I'm going to come into my OneDrive. And the reason why I start into my OneDrive, and this is how I start OneNotes, and this is that because really what we forget about OneNote, because it's amazing, it is essentially a file. It is a file system. It works for a file system where you are constantly syncing to the cloud. It's going to store information, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, what I mean by that. But it is a file. So the same way that I start even a Word document, Excel document, that too, I always start where I want it to live. OneNote is going to be starting because it's a file like a cloud document. This is the way that I always say, so I know where those OneNotes live. Now you can get to OneNote, of course, in your applications thing. Like if I come to the waffle, I can go to OneNote and I can see all of my OneNote notebooks. I can start a notebook there. I'm just giving you a tip for myself. I always like to start my OneNotes where I want them to live because of the file. So the work strategy I'm going to fit. So for example, if this was going to be a OneNote that's going to hold all of my budgeting forms or my budgeting tips and procedures, I'm going to have a folder in here that I might create that's going to be about like my fiscal year. And then I'm going to create my OneNote in there. And the same way that I would organize my files and my folders and my systems that make sense to my work structure, that's how I'm going to also create my OneNotes. That's just something for myself to be able to make sure that I have these in a logistical work order that's relevant, especially if I'm going to be able to have some people in or out or collaborating in that OneNote. When you hit this in new, and I'm in my OneDrive, you can also, of course, hit that OneNote notebook. All right, so I'm going to actually create another one. I have my example one that we're going to use, but I'm going to create here, and I'm going to hit create. And watch what happens when I create that notebook. The first thing it's going to do is it's actually going to take me online, and it's going to create that notebook for me. Here. And I just want to point out some things about OneNote Online, just so that you understand. If you ever come to a OneNote Online, you can always kind of tell some information about it and where the and some information so that you know exactly where you are in a certain notebook. I can come up here to the top. I can see, of course, if I click up here, I'm going to show that again. This is the title of that notebook. There's a caret up here. If I click on that caret, I can see I'm in this example practice notebook, and I can follow this character, my little breadcrumbs I call of information, and I can actually see where this notebook is living. It's in my documents, and I am able to go back to that where it lives in that file. This is even a place here, you can see as far as coming in here, it's going to pull up, it's going to come back into, it's showing me exactly where that notebook is at for myself to find it. So if you are ever in a place where you are looking for a notebook or someone shared a notebook and you want to know where it comes from, that's an example of one way that you can go ahead and be able to tell where that notebook is coming from when you're online. So what we're going to do actually here is I could work in this notebook. I can see this is very similar to that desktop application of what I was looking at before in that picture on my PowerPoint. Here is going to be my section. Here is my pages. I haven't titled my section yet, but I'm actually going to open this up in a desktop application. And to do that, I'm going to come back to this one notebook that I brought for this occasion here that I already created, because I want to just have this one notebook application open. So I'm going to open in the desktop app here. And it's going to ask now here, now it's got this little pop-up note, it's trying to open this. Are you okay with opening this notebook? Now it's going to mine opened up in the 2016 notebook, and I'm going to close this down. You might have gotten a choice of what you wanted to open this notebook to look like, okay? This is the 2016 desktop application. This is what it's going to look like when it opens up that notebook in your application, if it was the option you chose. If you don't have that application and you're actually working off of the Windows 10 version, it's going to open up into this Windows 10 version of the notebook that you have. It's going to open up and look here. Now it's a little bit, you can see, I can tell I'm in the Windows 10 because at the very top it says OneNote for Windows 10. My ribbons look different as far as the information that I have here. In fact, you might have something that looks like this if you haven't expanded your ribbons, and I'm going to talk about that in setting the stage. And I'm going to really kind of go back to how you want to set up your OneNote when you're going to be operating and working, okay? So since I'm already in the OneNote for Windows 10, I'm going to start right here. And what I mean by setting that you're setting up your stage so that you can be able to work and just getting identified with the areas in OneNote. I'm going to close this a little bit just so you can see. All right, just so you can see the parts there. And let me kind of pick up my view and blow this up a little bit more too for you. Zoom in. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to just blow up my screen a little bit here for you. Okay, so if we look here at Renan, I'm just going to do a check. Can you see my screen, or is it okay to see my screen? I want to make sure everybody can see what it is that I'm showing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in here, when we come into this different area, you can see when I came into, I'm going to click that out. When you come in here and you want to set up and just get familiar with Windows 10 and what we have on this side. This here, if I hit this, I'm going to hide, and I can hide this different area right here. And you see this kind of just notebooks area. That's going to say, okay, I'm going to open my different notebooks. These are going to be the notebooks that I have on my shelf. Right? So these are notebooks right now that I have open in my shelf in my OneNote. Now I have a lot more OneNotes. OneNote is my favorite tool. So I have a lot of different OneNotes that I'm working, but right now on my shelf in my workspace, these are the OneNotes right now that I'm currently looking at or have there. If I want to bring more notebooks into here, maybe there's another notebook I want to use, I can come back and open a notebook, and you're going to see today, there's that example practice book that I had there. You're also going to see all the notebooks that you have actually access to. So if you have other notebooks that you're sharing with from maybe a team, somewhere that's on a SharePoint site, something that you have other notebooks you have access to, they're going to be here on this list. You're going to be able to go in and be able to use or open those different notebooks here. This is a point where you can even add an account. Sometimes I will bring in accounts, like I have a demo account. A lot of times if I'm demoing things too, I can add an account here and be able to pull in the notebooks from there so that it's able to sync and add that information. Okay, so that's what we mean by those notebooks on your notebook shelves and how you are opening up those different notebooks that are available there. The next area here, as I'm in this example notebook, you can see here it says entitled section and page. That goes back to that PowerPoint page where we talked about we had our section and we had our page, and this is the actual page that we're going to be writing on or giving our information. And it looks like a kind of a blank canvas that's there right now. If I come up to anywhere on this ribbon, I always double click or click on here for this information, just have to click it once. It's going to keep my ribbons open. I prefer, and that's just a way for myself, I like to see the different options that I have in my ribbon. If I select that once, it's going to close. I still can operate. But as soon as I select on those ribbons, I'm going to be able to open those different ribbons to see what's available that's there. Okay, on there. I have a search feature here. This is that search icon. It's going to allow me to search for different tags, that I have. If I've made tags, we're going to talk about how to tag things in your notebook to make that efficiency there. And then also I have recent notes. I can find different recent notes that I have just been selecting. I want to find that page I was just on, especially if you've got information that maybe are things that you're trying to look up. The idea of OneNote is trying to get you to organize data information anytime easier in those relevant work streams that you need. So those are going to be your tools right here on that side of your notebook. If I come over to this other side, I can see up here in the corner here, these different icons. I've got here my sync status. Now, what a sync status means is you're going to notice in OneNote, in any of the iterations of OneNote, there is not a save button. This is a question I get all the time. Where's the save button? I've put all this information, I can't. You're not going to find a save button. And the reason why is because OneNote is always catching up. It's always collecting. It's always caching information. And then it's going to connect. As soon as you are somewhere where you are online, it's going to connect and sync to the cloud. It's going to be associated with a cloud account that's there. So for example, it's going to hold that information. It's going to be that fancy IT word that a lot of those technology, I know I used to hear a lot, and I sound very technical when I say, but it's going to cache to your hard drive, which essentially just means it's going to free up space. It's going to save all the work that you're doing on your hard drive. And at one point when you connect or reconnect to the cloud, it's going to actually pull that information up to the cloud and sync, and it's going to keep your OneNote up to date, and that's what's going to keep it, especially in that collaborative space. This works really well for remote learning if you have students that have if you're supporting any service areas or that too, if they start incorporating or learning how to use OneNote and maybe their access to internet is intermittent. I'm in the state of Idaho where we have a lot of rural schools. This is how I really got into supporting the state with using OneNote, because students could actually come work on information, and then as soon as they again got up into somewhere where they got online, it would then sync and be able to bring that information. I have used this quite often pre-COVID days when we could actually travel and I could be somewhere working, in an airport or somewhere on a plane. As soon as I got to an online, it could actually bring that information. That's the sync status. So why it's important, why I bring that out, is it's going to show you if you have something where you've typed in information here on your computer and you're talking to somebody, maybe you're collaborating at a school that you're supporting, or maybe it's something that you're typing if you are an administrative assistant or that, and you're supporting and working on a document. If the person on the other side says, hey, I'm not seeing what you added. If you say, no, I added a section in, and they're saying, I'm not seeing it, go check your sync status, because that is really what's going to make sure that that information is getting up to the cloud for that information that's there. Of course, sharing your information, be able to share the information in your OneNote if you're going to be sending a copy of the page, same type of idea. You can send that link or that too. But the 3 ellipses that you have here are where you can print. If you need to print a section or print a page, if you need to make something or print something out for your OneNote to be able to have a hard copy of it, but then also your settings. In your settings is where you're going to find the different options for being able to sync your notebooks automatically. If you want to turn off that sync for some reason, maybe you're going to be in an area and you want to work on some information first before you have it synced to the out, out to wherever somebody that has it or something. There's just different reasons why you may not want it to sync right now. This is where you can control that. Syncing down all files and images. That means it's going to bring files or images that are going to come. It's going to bring it actually into your OneNote and you have access to that. That with your bandwidth, how much you want to bring down, has to do with your hard drive space, how much you have available in your system. The class notebook tools, you can turn those off or you can turn those on. Those are going to be the tools that are added within that class notebook feature of being able to to send out or disperse pages in those class notebooks. So really it depends on your use of how you're using it. Again, down here is your navigation, how you are navigating through your work, enabling page previews, just being able to see the pages before you're going to work on here. It's all about, when you create a new page, this is something too. You might want to create a new page at the top of the list rather than the bottom. The default is going to be in there below the selected page, but you may have a different way that you want to have that information actually presented or where you have those pages out, where they're added. And what that means here is what that was referring to, and I'm going to go back to my notebooks here so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. This is the pages. They're asking what order do you want to create a page when you add a page? What does that look like? Okay, so in your settings, these are where you're really going to control the settings for the options for your notebook in the Windows 10 and in your Windows 10 application. The very top is where you're going to select that color between light or dark or use the system setting. I'm presenting right now, so it's nice and bright, but honestly, as soon as I'm done with this demo, I'll go back to my dark setting. Just because I'm on screen so often, I kind of use all of the dark settings in that system. But that's the Windows 10 application review. Okay, I'm going to actually pull up the Windows 2016 desktop application, and I just want to go through just briefly the same kind of outline just so that you know where the pieces and parts are using the desktop application also, because they are here and they're just in a little bit of different places depending on what you want to use in the workflow that you have. In the past, and really my preference, what I use, and it's because I'm used to it, is I use the desktop application, this 2016 version. This is what I use, and it's just because I've been using OneNote for so long. It's something I'm familiar, and it's always had the function and the functionality that I'm used to using. People were worried about 2016 going away. Not true. There is look for the beginning of the year as things come out in the next quarter. They're going to have some updates and that, and even coming through managing some more for 2016 in the desktop application. So just knowing that it's not going away. However, there has been a lot of features and functionality even added to the desktop, the Windows app. That's the Windows 10 app. So I'm going to set my stage here and actually go through what that looks like also in this OneNote application. If I double click here, when you open this up here, I'm going to double click right here and open my bookshelf. Now you can see, you can tell I use this a lot more because I've got a lot more notebooks on my bookshelf compared to what I had in the Windows 10 app. I've got here, these are my different notebooks. When I open them, you can see here these little carrots or extenders. Those are the little carrot icons here. If I click on those, you're going to be able to see those sections that are added. I'm just going to extend that one so you can see those different sections that are there. I also come up, and if you can see here, there's a pin. There's a little push pin that opens up, and it's got that notebooks section open. That's preference also. If you'd rather not see your notebook shelves, you can go ahead and close that, and it's just going to show your page, and you're not going to have your notebook shown. You don't have to do that. To me, it's just the OneNote feel that I'm used to, so I always have my bookshelf open. I also am constantly going through my different notebooks and adding information. information. Once you have your notebooks here, you can drag and drop your notebooks. You can actually move them and put them in different locations and drag and drop and use them depending on how you're using their notebooks. If you have one that you use more, you can put to the top. I usually keep my own personal notebook more to the top that I have here, but you can drag and drop these different notebooks that are here. In your bookshelf, you also can right click and you also have those properties. Remember, not only do we have ellipses, always looking for those ellipses, but we also have that right click is your friend. In OneNote, even in the OneNote 10 app, anywhere through OneNote, remember that right click is your friend. And I say that because when you come into any areas, if you come onto a page, you come into a section, you're going to be able to get and see what you can do with those different examples, like being able to do in the different menu options, whether it's in the notebook itself, whether it's in the page or the section. Right click is what's going to help you get to those menus. You can see here with this notebook, I can actually come and I can see I can check that notebook sync status, which was in the corner that we had before when we were trying to sync in Windows 10 app. This is that status here. So if I'm working here and I want to make sure that I'm checking in if my pages have synced to the cloud, because it's the same type of functionality. Not going to have that save button. It's going to be syncing continuously depending where it is and how it's saved in the cloud. The next thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to open up these ribbons. I'm going to open up the ribbon menu so I can see what I am dealing with. And the way that we do that is we just come here and I can see I've clicked on the home in the menu option, the home for this home ribbon. I can come here and I can actually pin on my far right hand side and I can pin the ribbon. And when I pin the ribbon, it looks like this. And now when I come through here, I'm able to see the different functionalities of the ribbon that I have available. Again, that is where we just pin the ribbon. I can either just come here, open that up, and then I can pin that ribbon. And now I can see all that functionality that we have in that setup. This is, of course, different from the Windows 10 app because here we have our sections are here. Pages are on that far right hand. Okay. And that's what's going to be different here. So I'm going to dive in a little bit in this, and then I'll go back to the Windows 10 app of that too, of just making sure where it's at. And it's going to be from here on out. It's going to be the same actions. We're going to be doing the same things here. I needed to go over the navigation a little bit just because they're a little different in where things are. But I just want to make sure you know how to do each in each application. It's not going to be a completely all different structure coming out. It's not going to be a whole different action. Just making sure you understand depending on what it is that you're using on this too. So first thing we're going to talk about is the name of the page. You want to title each one of your pages again to make sure, and this is where I try to tell people as much as we are with technology to make it as useful as we can, to make it fit as much as think about and intentional about your names. Because there is a great search feature within OneNote to be able to search in here, but really being intentional about what you want to title that. So this is going to be usually the title of the page so you know that information is. So this might be something that I always said like a welcome page or or something like a table of contents even. Especially if I'm putting together some kind of an informational booklet, okay? If I click on select on here on the date, you have the ability right here, you can either change this date, maybe it's something that you want to reflect something that happened. Maybe you want to keep this posting date so that you know how current that information is and you know when that information was created. There's just different ways of why you want to keep that date. When I'm usually putting together, so for example, this is a booklet I'm putting together for an overview of just how to use OneNote in different contents and structures. If you notice here, I take the date out when I'm putting together information or putting together different work streams or that too. I actually will take out the date in resources that I'm doing, and it just makes it a little bit, but that just has to do with the work stream that I have and how I'm using it. And the way that you do that is you simply come on and you just backspace or delete, and it's going to take the date out. The same with the time. You can adjust that time. So if I select on the time and I actually wanted to create an interval of time. I can't get exact, but I can do it in like intervals of a half an hour, that too. I could change the time if I wanted to, and change that page time. So if I really wanted to make that page, like I worked on it at 1 o'clock, I could actually update it to 1 p.m. if I wanted to. I'm going to take that out. So I take out the date and the time. You don't have to. It's a great way to keep up with your documents about when you had that document edited or that too. Okay. Up here in this section, I'm going to come up to this section. So now this has become the page title of my names here. I have my section. If you notice here, I still have untitled section. So when I hit untitled section, remember right click is your friend. Right click is your friend. When we right click on section, right click on that section, that is where we're going to be able to rename that section. So this might be the intro page. Intro section. Okay. So I'm able to name my section. I'm going to have these pages. So this is just like the divider in my notebook. I'm going to have that. I can then come over, if you see what happened here, my name now is table of contents. I've got another page here. I can either add a name to it as an example, or I can right click on that and I can see these menu options with my page. I'm going to choose to delete this page so that I just have this page here. As we come through here and I've got this blank canvas of information, I can now write on this just like a Word document. In fact, that's what I kind of suggest to people. Just treat this more like a canvas of how you want to put that information in. I do have the option to put in a Word document or add attach files and that we have here, but I just start actually writing on one way to be able to have this information here, you can use, of course, you have these text editor features. You can add in more bullets, bullet areas, phrases, those. You can change the text font. You can add in different styles like your headings and that too, right? Another resource, another way to organize information, and it's something that I always use too, is I insert, in the insert area, I insert a table. And then it's just a way for me to go ahead and organize information. So I might like have a topic and then maybe have the information. And it's just a way to keep information organized. And so if I have an example to show you here, I'm going to go back to this one that I'm creating. So it would look something like this. I have something that has a topic, I have the information here, and what that's going to look like. It's just a way so that it's not too run with over of that too. So I start with that and when I'm going to add that information. I'm actually going to come back to the home and we're going to look at the different things that you can do here. I have the ability, and you can do this in Windows too, I can put in a tag. So they're through this information. So for example, I might have something that is an introduction, something. And I might want to add in a tag that this is something that's important. I can actually come into my tags, and if I'm in the 2016 desktop application, I have this area here of tags I can show. I can scroll down here and see these things, but if I hit this little icon here that's going to open that, I actually have a lot of different things that I can use as a tag. So I might say that this information is important. And what a tag does is essentially puts it in place for you people to find information easily later. And you can put tags in the Windows 10 too, and I'll show you what that looks like in that process. But really what that does is it puts that information in a place where people can find it later. It's a great way that if you're communicating with somebody, like you might have something like this, question, right? And you might put in a tag that says question. So now later when I want to find tags and be able to find the different tags, I'm able to go back and use those different tags and be able to find them and find out all the information. Like right now, I've got a tag name and it's just searching this certain notebook, but it's going to show me all the pages of different areas where I have those different types of tags. It's also great, and it's got a space of its own because it's the to-do tag. I use this often, especially when I was an administrator, when I was at my in the district office. We use this as a team. We would create our own to-do list, and we could essentially add in a to-do tag and create those tags of information. So I could put in that to-do, reach out to clients. Call person, I'm just putting in things, email, and then we could actually attach who was going to be taking care of those to-do items. And then when we wanted to be able to use them, we could come back and we could actually, after it's done, we could select it and say it's done. So then it became clear to the person who we were communicating with. It became a resource that we were able to use. Again, I'm going to close my tag summary area so you can see here. I can put find tags and it's going to show me those different tags. Okay, so I'm going to come back in, and while we're practicing that, I'm going to go into this untitled page in here, and I'm going to look at here, and you can see my table of contents that is here. And I'm going to search here and see if I've got my to-do areas and that too. I can see here. These are different tags that I have in different notebooks. I'm going to hit search here. And this is where I've set these tags. I'm just going to change this to current notebook so that I'm not updating here. And I'm going to go back to my notebook, make sure I am syncing. This was that thing about that sync issue, because I want to make sure that they're syncing. Notebook sync says I want to make sure this is syncing, because we don't have that file save button, so I'm making sure that it syncs. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this to-do area over here. And I'm in this page. So if we're going to add tags that we have here for Windows 10, I'm in Windows 10 now. If I wanted to and be able to have pages and that too, I'm going to actually come out of this search. I'm going to go back to my workbooks. I'm in this title section. I'm in notebook. I'm in here. It's already telling me that it's not syncing. Saved, offline, sync now. See if it will bring, there we go. Now it's back to deal. So there we go. That's how that syncing works. You can see how it just came back. So now it's syncing. These are what I just did in that desktop application in 2016 where we were at. If I wanted to add a tag, it's the same kind of idea in Windows 10. They've added tags now. I'm going to come here and I'm going to actually add in now another area here. If I wanted to come in and I want to put in an idea. The tags here in the Windows 10 at the top, you have this option here where you can see these tags. I've got question, I've got here. You can actually create a new tag in the Windows 10 option. So I could even do to do important question that I have here. I created earlier something called idea. If I wanted to create a tag, I could hit this new tag. I've got icons that I can select from. And I could actually create something. So for example, if I wanted this flower and I want to call this flower new idea, I can actually create a tag that's there. And now created that tag when I want to come next to, of course, this area. So I will have this idea here. I'm going to come up in the tag area. I'm in the home ribbon of the Windows 10 application for OneNote. I can come down here and I can select my new tag. I can put new idea there. And I've created that tag. Okay, and again, the same kind of purpose of the thing is just a little bit of different where you can put that. You can see I have different options up here. That's the editor is different, but I still can add bullet points. I can still add my bold text. I still have all the same kind of functionality if I want to be able to come into that. But my search, if I'm looking for those tags, I'm not going to search for my tags like I did in the Windows desktop application. I'm actually going to go ahead over to this little magnifying glass and be able to search tags. Oh, and I got current, and I've got to change my tag. It shows these different tags, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find question. It's going to be questions right here, and I can change those different tags. That's how you're searching for your tags in those areas. I'm going to go back to now. I'm going to come out of this search area, come back to my notebooks, and I'm going to talk about this page. Same thing, you see I took the date out of here. If I look at these sections, same thing in Windows 10, I want to show this to you. Same kind of concept. Right click is your friend. You want to make sure that if you hit the right click here, it is your friend on that side. Same kind of menu options that you have here, that you're going to be able to get into those menu options and be able to use that there too. In the pages, so we've learned in here, I'm going to go back to the desktop 2016 application that we have here. And I want to talk a little bit more about these kinds of where you can actually enter and why these are different. And this is an example of what more features and capability you have in the OneNote 2016 application. You can actually add in Outlook tasks. So if you had tasks that are saved in your Outlook calendar, they can be added right into this page. You can actually email a page. So if you are connected to your OneNote, meaning that you've opened your Outlook and then opened your OneNote, you can have this connection where I could actually email this page and be able to connect it to my Outlook right here. It's going to email this page to someone else. Great time saver. Time saver. So for example, if I had, when I was an administrator, if you have weekly bulletins that you send out and weekly information, any kind of information, you can actually save it in your OneNote, have it there, and you're able to email it out, that page out to whoever it is that you need to. You can also add in meeting details. So if I wanted to from my calendar, I can add in, this was my calendar today, I've had a busy day. I could actually add in the meeting details, and it's going to list the people and the people that were in that meeting. These are functionalities that are in the OneNote 2016 desktop. Those are going to be those capabilities with that that connection to OneNote. So understanding these navigations and where those areas are. When you're going to insert, I want to talk about insert. Inserting information into your OneNote, and I'm really pretty much going to stay because you have the same idea of what it is in the functionality with the Windows 10 app. I'm actually going to stay in the desktop application here as we go through the next, because these are really different about what you can insert and how you use, and really have that functionality in the desktop application in the desktop application in 2016, which you just have more options and features that are here that are coming more into the Windows 10 app. Now, Windows 10 app has those like their math resources and those type of information. And before we go, I'll show you where you can figure out those differences. But for the purposes here as we go through, I want to stay more into this desktop application here. Already earlier when I talked about this is how you can insert a table. It's the same kind of mechanism that if you were in Microsoft Word or that too, you would add in a table and be able to add in these information here in that table to organize. File printout, file attachment. There are, depending on how you want to attach or put information into your OneNote, depends on how you insert it. The file printout information. This is an area where if I put in file printout, it's actually going to insert a file, but it's going to make a PDF of that file. It's going to put in that file. So for example, if I put in a PowerPoint, if I put in any kind of a resource in here, it's going to paint a picture of that file. So even if it's a Word document, it's going to be a file of that. It's going to be a picture of that. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add a page. If I come over to pages, it says add page. I'm going to select that. I've got a new page. I'm going to come over here to the top. I'm going to title the page, call it whatever that, give it the name, whatever it is that I'm going to do. If I'm going to actually have a file printout and I select a file that I'm going to include in this printout, I'm actually going to experiences in here, remote learning. I know I've got something in here. So I can this is an example of a file. This is an example of student appropriate use. If I wanted to be able to print that in here, I'm going to insert that. And what is going to come out is it's actually going to be a printout or information. It's cramping over and it's crossing over. And you're going to see it's an actual, like if I come in here, it's just a PDF version of that file. So that's what a file printout. A file attachment is different. A file attachment I can attach, but it's really going to attach that like a paper clip on a page in here. It's going to attach that file. It's going to make a copy to be on this OneNote. It's not going to be the same. So any edits that happen in your OneNote are not going to change the file that you attached. So I'm going to come over to add page here. I'm going to add doc again, the same doc. I had a title here. I'm going to do a file attachment this time. And I'm going to go into that same area as far as in remote learning. I'm going to enter here and this here. Okay, so I have a choice. I can attach the file, which I'm going to do. Insert printout means it's going to actually put that picture again of it. It's like a file preview kind of a thing. So there, I'm just going to attach the file that's here without that print preview. If I would have put a printout there, it would have also showed a picture of that file. But when you select on this file, and this is very important to know, as I open that attachment and work on this, this is actually another copy of that document. It is not the same copy it is not going to be the same copy that I just did in my files. It's just like attaching it. If you want to have a document, and this is important, if you're going to have a document that you're actually going to be working with and you want the changes to save and to edit, if you're going to have that, you're going to want to come in and add a hyperlink into your document. And that's where you're going to want to insert a link. So that means that if you have any kind of a document or something from online, you're going to want to create those links and actually add a link into that information and link from where it is in that information if you're going to want to make sure that you're updating a file. If you're okay that everybody's working on the same file of the OneNote and you understand that that's where it is and that's where those changes are and you can download that from there and work from there, that is definitely, that's a work solution that will work. But just understanding that there is not that same copy so that you actually have two existing. If you only want one working copy, you're going to want a hyperlink to a document. That's where you're going to want to go into, of course, your OneNote, like your OneDrive here. And if I had like a new if I had here, I would go into one of my documents. I would then, of course, get a copy link or share any way that I created a link from a document. And then I would want to go back and insert that link that's here. So I can put link, and then I would put that address or URL of that link that's in there. But that's what's going to keep that document like one source of document. So understanding the difference between the printout and the attachment. I will actually add a resource that explains the difference of that in the PowerPoint that I send out so that you can see the differences between when you're inserting. The same with a spreadsheet. Just understanding that that's a difference in how you're adding that spreadsheet that's coming in. This is where, though, you can add in recorded audio. You can even record a video. You can insert online video. You can add in online video either from viewing supported video. Depends on, like, you're going to be able to add in. This is information here. It will let you know what type of file, online video types that are available. You can add in a YouTube video. You can add in a stream video, but there's certain types that you can add in actual video that will become part of that OneNote that are in there. I'm going to cancel out of here. I'm going to go back to this section, just going back to also if we're looking at sections. These are really those helpful and information places that you can actually add in those resources. There's even an area here where you can create and add in page templates. The drawing feature, if you have ink in pen options, this is a great way to be able to draw in information. I use this a lot to be able to, if I select red in a square, especially if I'm trying to highlight the documents in here, I can, of course, highlight areas in that too, is that draw feature that's available. All of the review area is where you can actually check with your spelling, your research, and your thesaurus area, checking you being able to use those translate options that are available. And then also even into, of course, we are going to be able to get into the learning tools with Immersive Reader that are available all throughout those Microsoft products. The view area is where you're going to be able to see and change page color. If you want to be able to change page color, add in different like lines, if you want to add in different pages, be able to zoom in and out of your area, being able to see the type of video views that you're having. That's going to be along with that organizational area that's there. And then, of course, help area where you can show training that's going to take you to the training resources, and then the learning tools are going to be where you can get to Immersive Reader. Table is where I use a lot of the table functionality because that's where you're going to be able to actually control the table, where if you want to insert columns, insert rows, change the shading. So for example, if I wanted to highlight the top of this shading and make sure that I was highlighting there, that's where I'm going to be able to control actually in my table. You're going to see that option comes up here. I can even convert this table into an Excel sheet. With each section, and I want to show this too, in the section and in the pages, whenever we come to a page, this is where if I said right click is your friend, that's where you're going to get your menu options in any of these areas. This is where you can, of course, rename your page. You can delete a page. You can cut that page, take it out. You can copy and paste it. You can copy a link to a page. So for example, if I wanted to actually create a link to this page, I could copy that link to that page. I could come back to my table of contents. I could highlight here. I could insert a link. And I could actually paste it down here in this address. And I could insert a link to that page so that when I select there, it would take me to a page in there. That's where you can actually create that URL hyperlink to that page. Move or copy. This is a part I want you to imagine. If you want to move or copy, this is like taking this page and taking it to the copy machine and actually moving it to another area or copying to another area. And I'm going to show that what that really looks like from a section. I also can see different page versions. So that's going to show me if my page versions is going to show me the different edits that were made. So if something changed and I want to go back and change something, I actually have my page versions available that I can come back and change be able to change that page. But what I want to show you is the same functionalities are there in your section. So when we right click on a section, I want to show this move or copy. So move or copy are really essentially, this is the magic of, I think, of OneNote. So that you're able to move and disperse information for yourself. This is the same as me taking that same binder, that hard copy of a binder into the copy room, opening it up and taking an entire section or pages out and putting them through the copy machine for somebody. The key is you have to have the notebook you want to move from and the notebook where you have to have the notebook that you're moving information from and the notebook you're moving information to, both open on your bookshelf. You have to have both of the notebooks open on their bookshelf. So just like you go to the copy room, I can't go to the copy room with just one binder. I got to have the copy, I've got to have the originals that I'm going to run through the copy machine, and then I've got to have the binder that I'm going to put them in. So it's that same kind of concept when you're going here. So I can actually come to this entire section, and it's going to say, now I'm going to say it's going to move or copy. I'm in this section, it's going to say, where do you want to copy or move this to? I can actually select a notebook on here, and I can either move this whole section out, or I can copy. I'm going to actually put copy. And so I have now copied this entire section. I have that same ability with a page, right? So I can move or copy a page. Now here's the difference though. Once I select this notebook and open this up, the little plus sign is going to open that up. I have to actually select, you notice down here, these do not highlight yet. I can't do anything. It's not going to let you shove papers inside that notebook. You have to actually select a section where you want that page to go. And now I can either move or copy. So now I can copy over, and now I can go through. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in this notebook. You can see I've added that section. This is the section intro that I had. All of my pages are here, right? So I've been able to just go ahead and make that copy in there. If I come to here where my overview is, a table of contents, there's my other table of contents that I have in that notebook. I'm going to go ahead and erase those because this is another notebook that I'm working on, so I'm going to take those out. I'm going to go back and show you what that looks like again. I'm just going to move it out of here this time. I'm going to take this page, instead of move or copy now, right click as my friend. I'm going to hit move or copy. This time I'm going to move it because I want to move it back into where it came from. I'm going to hit the expander on here because it just will not let me select the notebook. I can't just shove a page in a binder. I hit the intro and I'm going to hit move. And now that page is going to be gone. It's out of that notebook. I'm going to do the same thing with this section. I'm going to move it back to where I came from. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to right click as my friend. I'm going to move or copy. And I'm going to come down here, take this to this back to this notebook, and I'm going to move this time. And you see these are here because I don't have to pick a section, it's already a whole section. So when I come back here, I've got this intro that was already here, and now I've got intro 2 because I moved that section back. I can go back and I can even see my pages that I put in here. I've got table of contents, and I've got table of contents. I've got that same page that I've moved back and forth. That is essentially how you can move back and forth. It's the same thing in Windows 10 application, but you're able to move that information back and forth. I'm going to hold off a second and see if we have any questions. If anybody wants to come off mute. Okay, I know we only have a few more minutes to wrap this up, and like I said, OneNote is an amazing tool that does essentially things here, but I wanted to make sure you knew how to get started. You understood the navigation in the ribbons and how to go through these different areas and here and what you can do. Knowing that you can sit here and see how to set your tags, which are going to be very important. Being able to email pages out actually to your OneNote and be able to organize that. From the insert feature, being able to insert different kinds of files and be able to work. My suggestion is always just being able to work right off the canvas in the page, like using that just same that you were in a WordPressing, just building that digital notebook as you move out. Being able to add in more of that recording video or audio. When you select that, you're going to have those tools to be able to record if there's a message. And then also, if you wanted to be able to add in the date and time, I took that out. Of course, you can add in those date and time, and just being able to add in those different areas that you have. We kind of reviewed that draw area. History is going to be where you're going to find any of those page versions or anything that maybe you've deleted or pages that are deleted in those sections. Those are going to be where you can cover that information. And then learning tools, like I didn't dive into, but that's where you're going to find those accessibility features. I mean, that's where you're going to be able to find that immersive reader tool and what that looks like and be able to use those tools. In the Windows, before we go, in the Windows 10 app, I do want to point this out. In the help area, and what I love about this too, is you're going to find this what's new section. And I'm in the Windows 10 app, and you're going to hit what's new. So if you're in the Windows 10 app and you want to see what's new, that's a great place to go to be able to find those resources. Not yet here in 2016, although the help features are amazing when you come into help. There's those training resources that are there, but as soon as they come up with more of these features in 2016, I'm sure those will be available. I'm just about in time. Renan asked, is there anything specific that we would like to see before we covered, or that too we can dive more into? I would love to come back and do even more of how to organize notebooks, building templates with notebooks in those structures. If we can come back and get feedback if there's anything specific that you would like to see, and how these are used in really diving deeper into that too, I'd be happy to come back and have and share more about those types of resources. Anne, is there anything you would like to see? Or is there anything else that you were wondering about with OneNote?
No, I think you did a great job. I'm anxious to get back, get to work and start using it a little more now that I understand the navigation better. It's such a big program that really helped to just have a walkthrough.
It really is. And the thing that you say about that too is I always say just to remember that it's a file. Everybody, once you start using OneNote, it's really easy to try and include everything, I would say including everything but the kitchen sink, right? You just want to put more and more information in it. Watch your file size. It is an amazing binder, but it's the same. If I always go back to how I would use an actual binder, I would not want to lug around a huge Trapper Keeper that was, 5 feet wide and, that I couldn't carry. So just the same kind of concepts, and keep those organizational strategies in here. But like I said, if we were going to dive in next to go into OneNote, I would love to get in more into section groups, how to use these OneNotes and how to divide them up and even use them more in a more sophisticated way for people as they use OneNote.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your expertise. I know that we're about a little over time, but I just want to remind everybody that next week we'll have Jerry back to do an introduction to Microsoft Forms. That's next on the 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you haven't signed up, make sure you sign up. I'm anxious to learn more about Forms. So.
Awesome. And we've got some requests about learning more about in-depth with OneNote, so we'll just we can set that up and really take another deep dive in here about section groups and that too. All right.
We'll do that. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you next week.